Support for WonderBuzz comes from Too Embarrassed to Ask, a quarterly magazine that answers all the questions you're too mortified to Google. This month's features include: how do I train my pet ducks to detect those low-key vibes I'm putting out there? Is this supposed to be on my anus? Is this old log on the forest floor judging me yet again? And what is my avocado toast trying to tell me about my past lives? Now available in every dentist's office in America. Too embarrassed to ask? Then don't. We'll do it for you.
Welcome to WonderBuzz. I'm your host, Nate Larson, and it is such a joy to have you with me today. I hope you're living your best summer life right now. Say what you will about the sun, but I'm a fan. There you go. That's my hot take right out of the box today. Very controversial. I believe the earth benefits from the sun. I'll wait for your letters. I have made it to New Hampshire and Vermont, where I am soaking up the heat and soaking up the green trees. Every possible shade of green you can imagine, and even some you never thought possible, which is one of the things that makes Vermont and this area so special. I'll soon be heading towards Canada to drive to the most easterly point in North America. But while I've been here, I've had some time to get some repairs done in the last few weeks. I just installed my 6th windshield on Van Halen. Yes, I said 6th. Lucky number 6, as they say in the windshield business. And a very helpful friend from the road informed me that I might want to try removing the small hood spoiler that is just on the front of my van. The theory is that rocks are hitting that small plastic spoiler, which is protecting the edge of the hood as designed. But because of the angle, it is accelerating the projectiles up into my windshield, basically like a volleyball player just spiking little stones into my glass. After 6 windshields, I will try anything. It has been a few weeks since I've done listener questions, and I have collected a few gems that I want to share with you. The first one: you said you were invited to hunt invasive pigs in Florida. What exactly does one wear to a pig hunt in a wildlife management area? Asking for a very confused fashion blogger. This is a very good question. I think it's pretty standard in Florida, and I think you'll see this if you go to wildlife management areas, just to wear footballs when you're hunting pigs. These are Velcro suits, kind of like ghillie suits. You cover them in Velcro. I like to use the soft side of the Velcro on the suit, just a little bit more freedom of movement. And then you need to gather 50 or 60 actual pigskin footballs. So these can't be plastic footballs. These can't be Nerf footballs. A lot of times you can get great deals at a Walmart in Florida. You get 50 or 60 of those nice, authentic pigskin footballs together. Put some of that 3M Velcro on the back. Use the hard side, right? Because you're wearing the soft side. Stick those footballs over your body. And you attract pigskin with pigskin. Just walk out into the wildlife management area and the hunt is on. So I hope that answers that question for you. And that's definitely factual. Here's the next question. What is your obsession with orange Coke? First of all, it's healthy. It's got orange in it, so that's good for you. And it tastes great. So that combination really just makes it the perfect movie theater drink. I am still looking for a person with access to a freestyle Coke machine. So if you are a fast food manager or you have one of these in your franchise or your place of business, I just need you to wire up the orange flavoring with the Coke again. I think we hack into the mainframe, press a couple buttons, and then, you give me a little orange Coke on the side until they bring it back officially. So if you listen to this podcast and you have access to one of those machines, I will drive anywhere to meet you. Okay, on to the next question. Do you ever listen back to your own podcast and cringe at the things you said 2 weeks ago? Or is that just me with my voice memos? There's a lot of self-deprecating humor in the listener questions I've been getting recently, which I like. It's a good tone. No, I don't cringe at the things I say, but I also haven't listened back to the whole pigskin orange Coke stuff I just did 5 seconds ago. I probably should cringe. I don't know. I'm the wrong person to ask, I think. but I'm sure some cringe things are going to happen. Just probably part of the deal. And voice memos. I'm just want to comment on that too. I'm not a big voice memo person, but I've been receiving more and more voice memos, so I'm wondering if I'm just behind the trend here on the voice memo wave. Let me know just how far behind the times I am by leaving me a voice memo this week. Okay, let's do one more question. Do your poems start with images or feelings? And how do you know when to stop editing and just let it live? Well, it's not unlike photography for me. I will edit an image. Usually an image is based off, something I've already seen in my head or an emotion that I'm trying to convey when I make a photograph. And a lot of times I discover a new emotion or a new feeling in the editing process. And that's been the same with poetry for me. I will start with an intent or a feeling or an image or a story in my mind, but as you get into the editing process, you discover new stories and new emotions. And just like with photography, for me, I get a sense of when done is done, when I've landed the emotion or landed the feeling or landed the imagery that I wanted to convey. But also, like photography, I go back and I will reread or, re-edit a photo. And I think that's just time changing my perspective on things, going back and maybe rereading things differently. So kind of a complicated answer for you, but I think I just sense when they're done initially. But that doesn't mean that I won't go back and revisit them. I see them as living things out in the world. Thanks for the question. And thanks to everyone for your questions. Send those to me at podcast@nathanlarson.com. And I can't wait to hear from you.
Okay, real talk. WonderBuzz doesn't run on likes and fermented mushroom coffee. It runs on art and listeners like you. If you want to support the show and get something beautiful in return, use promo code WonderBuzz at nathanlarson.com to get 20% off and free shipping on fine art prints. There is a huge and growing collection of photographs at nathanlarson.com, and they won't ask you to like, comment, or subscribe. Use promo code WonderBuzz today. Now back to the episode.
Well, there's no guest on WonderBuzz today, just some musings from yours truly. So we're going to get right into today's story. Our house sat at the very edge of a development at the mouth of Logan Canyon, in the shadow of Mount Logan, nearly 10,000 feet tall. We were the last house on the last cul-de-sac in the last neighborhood. Step out the front door and everything stretched downhill. First, the subdivision streets, winding like threads through houses of every shape and size and color. Then a sharp drop into Cache Valley, a wide and fertile basin ringed by mountains. The Logan River cut through the vast flatlands, and I learned to carve whistles from willow branches sitting on the banks in the cool shade on the river. Step out the back door, past our little patch of lawn, where I spent most summer evenings pretending to be the starting center fielder for the Atlanta Braves, and there was nothing but open fields before the land rose again into the foothills, and small ridges, and finally into the Bear River Mountains, part of the Wasatch Range. In summer, the air buzzed with grasshoppers of all kinds, slant-faced, band-winged, spur-throated, the distant cousins of the locusts that once plagued early settlers. In the winter, when the grasshoppers were only eggs in the soil, snow blanketed everything. The wind sculpted drifts into an icy topography, broken only by looping Nordic ski tracks, animal prints, and the drag marks from sleds pulled by older siblings, hauling younger ones. I did not know it at the time, but wild things were making a last stand in those fields and in those hills, in the quiet places just beyond the last cul-de-sac, in the last neighborhood, at the edge of town. There was one tree in the entire field between our house and the mountain range, a cottonwood. It was the tree Adam fell out of one summer, tearing the skin beneath his arm down to the bone. When we ran for help, our house was the closest. My mom was the first adult to reach him. She wrapped his arm in a t-shirt like she'd done it 100 times, and then carried him home. Word had already started traveling to Adam's house by way of running children, kids running in summer faster than any telephone. I don't think we were much help in the moment. We were too wide-eyed to be useful. In late summer, when the days stretched long and golden, my mom would send me running up to a particular hill at the base of the mountain. You could see it clearly from the sliding glass door that overlooked our backyard, and she had binoculars so she could see to the top. She'd say she was timing me, wanted to see if I could beat my last record. I'd burst through the back door, across the lawn, and into the field like it was a foot race, tearing through the tall grass, grasshoppers lifting in startled clouds as I charged through their world. One time, probably after all other summer activities had been exhausted, she hid chocolate chip cookies at the top of that hill and sent my entire Cub Scout pack sprinting like sugar-addicted goats to the top and back. I like to think she just needed a few quiet minutes. And she had the binoculars, and none of us were headed for the tree. When I found out we were moving away in the middle of a school year, I got sentimental. I had this aching fondness for the backyard that only expanded. It was the second place I had lived as a child with an eternal backyard, the first being Wyoming. I never lived anywhere like these places again. The next few moves were into hardwood forests. No more last cul-de-sac in the last neighborhood at the edge of town. So I packed a time capsule in the least secure container possible, a glass mason jar. Inside were small treasures I still remember. A blue University of Utah Aggies football pennant. My best friend Jake's dad was one of the coaches. A wallet-sized photo of Tracy Armstrong, her blonde hair and bright grin, frozen forever against one of those cloudy school photo backdrops before we got fancy with lasers and green screens. And one of my mom's homemade chocolate chip cookies, wrapped in tinfoil. I hiked up past the foothills into the lower slopes of the mountains and found a rocky outcropping with a wide view. I felt like I was so high up. I sat there for a while, wind brushing across my face, staring out over the vastness of Cache Valley, patchworked with orchards and ranches and farms, and in the far distance, more peaks, the Wellsville Mountains. I tucked the jar into a hollow between the rocks and piled stones over the top, a mason jar tomb. I felt like I was burying a treasure. On the walk home, I passed a pair of deer pacing along a new wildlife fence that had just been built along the mountain's base. A fence that did a poor job of keeping deer out of the neighborhood lawns and gardens. Looking back, that fence was a sign, an early new boundary. Someday they were going to build new neighborhoods across that entire field behind my house and cover all of those empty foothills, and even build houses up onto the mountain. My time capsule would eventually be under the parking lot of a church, but that was the future. 2 days later, I wanted a cookie. I checked the kitchen, nothing. I checked the places my siblings stashed cookies when my mom baked a batch. It was a competitive cookie environment, but still nothing. I held out until lunch, but the craving had a grip on me. That craving would turn out to be a theme in my life. So I did the logical thing. I made my way back up into the mountains. On the way, I paused to watch a noisy tangle of magpies squabbling in the brush. They sounded like grumpy old men complaining about the weather. I hear you, magpies. I hear you. Then I pushed further up the ridge, retracing my steps. I found the spot, unburied the capsule, unwrapped the cookie, and ate it right there on the rocks. Took one last look at Cache Valley, one last look at Tracy, buried everything again, and I never went back. You've done it again. You've made it to the end of another episode of Wonder Buzz. As always, thanks for listening and sharing your thoughts and feedback with me. If you want to see more of my work, including my photography and my ongoing poetry series, you can head over to nathanlarson.com. Follow me on Instagram at nathanlarsonphoto, Instagram, where beauty is an algorithm, grief is performative, and no one eats a meal without capturing the receipts. Send comments and questions to podcast@nathanlarson.com, and it would be so helpful if you could recommend Wonder Buzz to your friends, rate it, and review it. It's the best way to help other people find our little Wonderbuzz community and come along for the ride. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and I will see you on the next episode of Wonderbuzz.